Rules are there's outside receiver storm rules and there's inside receiver storm rules. Okay. So for the outside receiver, you have the ability, but are not required to make a double move as long as it's underneath 10 yards. And we challenge our receivers to have a little bit of fun with it. So what's been our top run? What's been our top concept? Okay, so let's say our pop series we just talked about been really good. Okay, let's talk about, our play action series, whatever you call it, fake, whatever, Frank, something, whatever. You have something that matches your terminology. Okay, you have this. It's been something that you just saw on tape. Okay, if he wants to double move that, again, that's a little deep on this diagram. It's got to be under 10 yards. So if it's here, and then he wants to take it on, a sluggo for some people, he can. And again, this is not based off of an outside receiver picture, but I want to go through the rules for you. Okay. Let's say we've been running a lot of hitches as release, hitch and go, more than appropriate. Let's say you cut your alignment a little bit and you want to run an out and up, more than appropriate. Whatever it is that you want to do, as long as the decision is made under 10 yards, you have the flexibility to do it. It's one of the few times where we're not really dictating to receivers what they can and can't do. Okay. If it's an outside receiver storm tag, then inside receivers have the ability to have hash rules much like they would on vertical. Okay. If it's an inside receiver storm, they do not get the ability to double move, but as long as they end up down the field, they will grade out as a non-MA. So then again, if you're not tagged, you have hash rules. So I'll repeat it again. If you are not tagged, outside receivers have an 18-yard comeback. If you are tagged, you have to end up down the field. Outside receivers can double move, inside receivers can't. Inside receivers, if you're not tagged, you have hash rules. Okay, you're shutting it down on that hash at 15 yards. So the spacing is really good. Okay. And then it allows for, in this instance, let's say you were in a 3x set. Let's say you tagged H here on your storm or whatever you describe him as. He knows that he just has to end up down the field. Okay. Think about this in terms of mini. Okay. In this case, you basically are going to have one-on-one with this nickel Sam outside leverage. You're going to be able to stem and take it over the top. Great mini beater, knowing that this guy's going to keep it around the far hash because he's in 3x1. Okay. We're going to talk about the quarterback's rules. So the quarterback's rules are to check the storm. Okay. If he comes off of the storm, then it becomes too high, one high. If it's too high, we work inside to back. If it's one high, we work outside to back. So inside out or outside in. Okay. That allows us to be efficient and not take sacks. Now, I warn everybody on the call. It is really hard. The key to this thing is getting the trust level within your quarterback to come off of the storm. You know if that storm has won. If that's your best player, I hope he did. And you can formation him in different ways to get this done. If he didn't, get off the storm, get to your next progression to getting the ball to your back. I got a clip on here that shows the value of that. I also have some quarterbacks making some bad decisions as well, so you can see it. So that's a 3x, as you see it here, 3x inside receiver storm rule. Okay, here's out of an 11 personnel tight end offset. Okay, let's say we wanted to throw the ball to the H in this set, and we're in 11 personnel. Okay, in this picture, we would have, again, inside receiver storm rules. The outside receivers know they have 18-yard comebacks. Okay. We can add a max protection here by letting the tight end stay in protection or chip an end and release in either direction based off various calls. Okay, and the running back would stay in. So you get a 7-man pro potentially. Let's say you use a ton of full slide. You can do it in that. Let's say you like to keep your tackles wide, but you have a good edge rusher. You can chip them and keep them in that point. But in this case, if he likes the storm, he takes it. If he doesn't, then he's going to stay one high, outside to back. If it's too high, he's going to probably end up getting to the back in 11 personnel. Okay, I see a question popped up. Said, are you free releasing the back on the swing like other concepts? So it depends on a protection call. So we have the ability to be in a 6-man pro, a 7-man pro, or a 5-man pro. A lot of that's going to depend on how concerned we are in our game planning of pressure in that picture. So that would be the easiest answer I could give to that, is that it sort of depends on what we're getting in a game planning perspective. But a good question regardless. It's going to depend on what they're giving us if we're worried about pressure. So that's an 11 personnel storm picture. Here's an 11 personnel rules versus an outside receiver storm, as you can see here. So he wants to, let's say he wants to run this off of a hitch and go. Let's say you do a lot of curl flat. Let's say you want, whatever some of your top pass game is. He's got the freedom to set up various things that he had along the way. That's just how we draw it on our schemes, right? And then he can take it vertical. Inside receivers then have hash rules. If they know that they're in a 2x set, they stay on the near hash. They'll end up wrapping flat defenders. If they know in 11 personnel, because there's no receiver over here, they can work a little bit in here. When you get in 2x2 10 personnel, you want to stay away from this hash because there'll be a receiver there as well. So again, that's an 11 personnel picture. Outside storm rules. Again, this guy knows he's not tagged, so he's on that 18-yard comeback. But again, the 18 yards is really important to make sure your guys push their depth. As much as you coach your quarterbacks off of this, they're going to get excited when they hear the word storm or whatever you decide to call it, okay? So when they hear that, you have to be able to get off of it, okay? And we've coded a little bit of this, so we're not using all our terminology, okay? But if you call this storm, you're taking that, and he's going to hold on to it. If he ends up, he gets a press corner and he runs this at 10, his timing is going to be all off versus one high. Okay, and then lastly, a 10 personnel picture. In this case, let's say we wanted to use X. And again, we're going to game plan this. It's not going to be, really hard, but it would be very easy if you want to call this storm or whatever you call it to tag X in this picture. And it gives you that. So that's a really a big advantage for us. I see another question that pops up. It says, I might have missed it, but do you call storm without any tags? And what are the rules in that case? That's a really good question, Joel. So if you wanted that, it would just turn into all comebacks. You get 15-yard comebacks on the inside, 18-yard comebacks on the outside if you did not tag somebody, because that's their rules. If they know that they're not tagged, they have that. And again, this is really great in 2 minutes. So if you wanted that in a 2-minute situation, let's say you are trying to get in field goal range and get out of bounds, that's a great way to get it to both sides. Or, get yourself a first down, get down. That's a great way to do it. It's not a huge part of who we are, but we would have done it that way if we need be. But that's a great way to get it if you just decide not to tag anybody. The beauty of it is it's really rule based. So Joel, to your point, if you're not tagging anybody, that would essentially be your concept. You would just get comebacks right there. And that's a great concept. But if that's what you would have get based off the rules as the kids understand it, how we have it built. So good question. So again, starting with some practice clips, just so you can see some base versions in which it's installed. Again, in this case, we're gonna have the storm is going to be coming from the inside receiver right here. Okay, if you decide to call it storm or whatever you decide to call it, it's really easy to get this communicated. They know who's tagged and who's not. Okay, so he doesn't do a great job here disguising it because he's pretty excited right now. Okay. Now, I encourage our guys in storm rules on the inside to stem at the safety's toes, stem him outside if you can, break him across his face, and then let the ball bring you inside to stay away from this safety, okay? You're going to want to hold his eyes with something. So you better do something here to try to hold that safety just enough. If you watch our tight end here, we're going to go away, which triggers a 3-by trace here. And the boundary safety's eyes don't get out as quick. Okay. Sorry, it's got a little skip there. But the boundary safety's eyes are through number 3 here. So he won't get out as quick. When he releases, his eyes come back inside the 3 and he's too late. Okay. So base rules, you're going to have an 18-yard comeback. You're going to have an 18-yard comeback. He's a tight split, so he's going to widen it a little bit, okay? And you're going to have the guy who's tagged on storm, all right? So just watch this clip. I see the question that pops up there. I'll get to it here in a second. But as you can see, the boundary safety is late to get out. our first read is the storm. You're going to have to keep getting your guys comfortable getting off the storm. Okay, but in this case, we get an explosive pass play versus split safeties because we get a downfield concept.